Hi everyone, I'm Leisha and welcome to my podcast, Leisha Online. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Hello everybody, and
Yeah. What an outfit. Okay.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 12 of Leisha Online.
Episode 12?
Yeah, I think this is the scariest one I've done so far.
What happened 1 to 11? Have you working your way through
a lot
the
of
company?
fun. Yes, I had Maria on and now I've worked my way up to the top. And here I am. So for anybody who doesn't know you two, could you introduce yourself please to the podcast?
I am Kieran. I am co-founder, co-MD of Stellify Media.
And I am Matthew Worthy. I am the other co-founder and co-MD of Stellify Media. We say co-CEO when we're in America because it sounds fancy.
Yeah.
But it sounds stupid when you're in the UK.
Yeah, it sounds silly here.
Yeah, you sound like an Egypt.
Well, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. So my first question is basically, how did you get into TV?
Okay, you want to go first?
Yep, I did. I just figured it was. I knew I was interested in the media when I was a kid. It interested me how people advertise things, how people made choices about TV programs, how people wrote things up. So I went and did a university course around media studies.
Mm-hmm.
I chose one that had modules in lots of different things, so I could find out what about it I enjoyed. I think I've pretty quickly settled on TV. Journalism seemed quite hard. You had to learn a special way of writing. I wasn't very good at that. A few other bits and pieces. I went for TV and enjoyed it a lot, and then went about the hard bit of trying to get a job in TV after that, which was moving down to London, which I believe you're going to do.
Where are you originally from?
So I'm from the Midlands. I was at uni in Sunderland. I'm from a place called Leamington, which is in the middle of the country. I moved down to London because that's where all of TV was at that stage, more or less all of TV. I got a job at Great Ormond Street Hospital, loading frozen turkeys into the freezer in the catering department. And that gave me time in the afternoon to go and give my CV around. I did not. I guess I just persevered at that.
There was
naively.
no schemes in that day too.
It's a good question. It doesn't feel like there was.
No.
You just had to go and visit this is going to fly a ramble on for ages. So all the companies, they're all big companies, and they all had lovely flash offices in Soho, and it all felt very important and like another world I wasn't really part of. I've skipped ahead a little. So the very first thing I did is I got work experience on Watchdog. My friend at uni had badged them and got work experience down there. He said, they'll get you in too. Went down and we had to sit in the back of the shop, pretend we were taking calls from people complaining about the washing machines. We had to sift through all the mail looking for good stories and a few other bits and pieces like that. We got to go out on a few shoots. Did those sort of runner activities of suddenly having to drive a truck and go and blag a mattress off somebody for a shoot, etc. So that was my first introduction, and I enjoyed it very much, and I wanted more. So I stayed down in London, lived with my nan, who is in Uxbridge, just outside London. She used to record Watercolour Challenge for me every day. Remember that? For when I came home. And
What age were you at this point?
I was 21, I think. I quickly learned to drive a car in 3 days because I kept on telling everybody I had a driving licence and I didn't. And I went and gave my CV to post-production houses and production houses. And finally, I was offered a job at a post-production house, but before I could accept that, a company called Talkback is still around. They found my CV and called me into for an interview for a job in Manchester. And I guess I interviewed well for the first and last time in my life and got that job. And they couldn't believe that I'd be prepared to move to Manchester for it. But there was nothing holding me in London at the time.
See, I thought you had a Manchester accent.
My mum's family are all from Blackpool, so they're all from Lancashire. So I've got a bit of that, I guess. And from when I lived up there, maybe, I don't know. But that's where I went and did that job, which was a job for Talkback, but they were working inside the BBC Manchester buildings. And from that led to another job in Granada, and I stayed there for quite a while working on various shows, which was just the best time ever, because that was like Laoise starts, the Laoise finals. It was everybody would go and have a drink in the rowers' return after work. It was the time when there was still big construction places and stuff, so you had all the people that would work on the show, from the chippies to the people that would kind of hire out the costume cars and everything, were all on site. Such an exciting place to be, and you were filming on site as well, and the offices were there. It was great. Worked there for a while. That's where it all started, and now you can go to Kieran.
Yes. You had quite a different experience, obviously, growing up in Belfast.
Yes, I like to think I had my entry to TV would be like that, which sounds lovely. Lots of different jobs, but it wasn't. I thought I'd be a journalist. I always wanted to be a writer. Thought I'd be a journalist because that's the only way I thought people got paid. And you could write books, obviously, but that would have been, you wouldn't have got paid to write books. You had to write them first, sell them, and I had obviously had bills. So I thought I'd be a journalist and I would do it. And then as I was going through secondary school, I realised you could do media studies. I thought, I'll do media studies as a degree, and I would go to Buckinghamshire, which is where I applied for. I know.
God.
I was like, yeah, I'm going to go to Buckinghamshire. Even you did the BCC, and I thought, yeah, I'll nail that. That'll be grand.
What did Buckinghamshire look like in your head?
Green. It just looked green. I saw I didn't go to any open
Where
days.
is that?
I don't even know. But it had a really green
No,
campus.
that's just like the
I thought
north
it
of
looked-
London.
I know you got the things in your schools. And I was like, fuck, that'll do me. That looks great. So I applied to BCC, no problem, I thought to myself. But I got an E, an N, and a U at A level. And that was
Right.
it. And then I went,
N?
an N, yeah.
What is that?
I don't know. One of them
Nearly.
It stands for no.
Do you know what's worse? Is that I did all those A levels. I didn't leave early. I wrote pages and pages and pages of answers. And then that was the end of it. I had to get a job. So I got a job, just regular jobs, bar work, working in a call centre, working in a outdoor shop, that sort of stuff. Which is grand, didn't mind it, great people, but it really wasn't for me. Keeping my eye out for stuff. And then I went back to school, went back to tech when I was 18, and everybody was 16. They all thought I was their teacher because I had sideburns and a goatee, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, my first job on TV was, I was 27, and I was going to Giant's Causeway with my now wife and her cousin and her fellow. And there was an ad in the back of the Belfast Telegraph saying, do you want to work on TV? Do you have ideas and no experience necessary? And I thought, yes, I do. So I applied and got that job. And then that was my start. I just started as a junior development researcher at 27.
Tell me about the infamous suit.
Oh yeah, I wore a suit. So I didn't know. Every job I'd gone to, everybody wore a suit. You had to work. You were told, don't chew chewing gum, comb your hair, put a suit and tie on if you're going for an interview. Bring CVs all printed out lovely. So I put on, as model today, I look like I work in a phone shop. Or I'm going to court and I put a suit on. I looked like an estate agent when I put on a suit. And I had, it was awful. So I stuck a suit on. And I was working in the call centre when I went for the interview, so I had to wear a suit to the call centre, which was terrible. And then I left and I went for the interview in full, like, going to court attire. And on my way up the stairs, it was in Phil's office, our old boss's office. And you just sit outside and wait. And while I was waiting for him, another guy came out who we know, a fella called Ian. And Ian was dressed in, Ian used to work for 16 South, remember? He had combat trousers on, these mad boots.
Right.
He had a rucksacky type thing that was all spiky. Like, he looked like a skateboarder, but he was in his 40s. You know what I mean? And I was like, I have made the wrong choice. I was in change.
Well, maybe it showed you were better.
Or conversely, the right choice.
Yeah.
And then I went in dressed like I was I was auditing the place. I looked like an accountant. And then I did my interview. And then I got
An inspector.
Yeah, and that's how I got my first job on TV.
So a question I have for you is, what was your first impression of each other? Do you remember your first moment meeting? Did you like each other?
Didn't mind him.
Mine was my how I remember first seeing Kieran and meeting Kieran, because you would have been in the office. We would be in the office the same time, but our lives didn't interact.
You were at a different office. You were down beside.
Oh, right, there you go.
You were down beside.
That's why it was then. My memory isn't the best, Lisa. You'll learn that for this chat. But I do remember we were on. It must have been a work Christmas party or something. So when our lives interacted, it was the first time it was at a Christmas party.
So were you not working in the same office then, but for the same company?
Yeah, we had like a little. We were on. I was working on production. We had a satellite office just to do that production because the main offices weren't big enough to hold productions at that time. And yes, my first impressions were: do I trust that man who's looking after a drunken Michelle and offering to take her home.
I took Michelle home drunk, which sounds, it was the gentlemanly thing to do.
So I just spent the whole night going, what's he look like?
You
Just
had
asking.
it here first.
I think it was Rosie at the time asking her, who is he? Is he all right? Is Michelle all right with him? He looks weird. That's what I remember.
Were you in the same band too?
No, I was dressed like a skateboarder. I decided TV.
Those that you look weird. You're just showing off, weren't you? That's all.
Yeah. Just so you know,
protective of it.
I knew Michelle.
Right.
I'd known Michelle for a while, having worked at Wild Rover for a while. Michelle was steaming drunk, like falling over drunk. And so I thought to myself, I was getting ready to go. I was going home.
She was a fall asleeper.
Yeah.
So she'd get drunk and then
just, like a narcoleptic,
just off on the sofa, and that was it.
So we were at the Christmas dinner. Everybody's juiced, and I was like, right, I'm getting home. That's me shooting on, and I got up to go, and I saw Michelle like 3/4 asleep, and my taxi was outside. So I said, Michelle, do you want me to take you home in a taxi? I can drop you off. And she went, yeah, take my own block. So I carried her into the taxi. And while I didn't realize while I was doing it, I was being fucking investigated as a potential pest. And I take her home. And when I got her to her house, I don't care if she hears this, like, she was that drunk at the taxi. I had to go to the taxi man. She's not really sick. Don't be worried. Everything's all right. We got to the door. Taxi man driving with one eye in the rear view mirror. Michelle's just bouncing around. So I went, right, Michelle, see you later. Couldn't get to the taxi. So I had to get her out of the taxi, walk her to her door, help her get her keys, opened her door, and I went right into it. I went straight by the taxi, went straight. And she went in. I don't know if she
was very Karen.
I don't know. Well, I got her into her front fucking door. I don't know who she was living with, but somebody collected her.
Right.
And she was saying, it was all belligerent. I didn't even want to leave that party. And I was like, all right, Michelle. Cheerio, Michelle. Bye. And then I went home to Jane, as it was. I don't know where I was living. Maybe it was Stammer Jane. I don't know. But I went home. So I left early, not drunk, sensibly, and still got, here's that guy. He's at West Belfast Italian. Taking Michelle home.
I had no concept of what West Belfast meant.
It's only years later you realise.
Yeah.
But there you go. So that was his
what you're in store for.
And then, hear my first impression of him?
Yes.
Right. So when he got the job, I was a junior development researcher, right? But there was only 2 people in the office. At this stage, it was me and a woman called Verity, Pete. Okay. And we were doing all the development work. And Matt came in to work on Get Smarter in a Week on a different office. So we were circling. So Matt was knocking around with some of our office ones who'd moved, but we became 2 like separate units. So I would see him and we'd say hello. He was hanging around with the people I knew, but I wasn't with the people I knew because I was in a different office. And then, so we didn't really know each other very well. And he seemed funny, it was crack. Then he got moved into development for a variety of reasons. Once that show was finished, he joined development, and then we were working directly together. And then is when we sort of started circling each other, like people in a zoo, like, who is this fellow, what's his crack?
Because we're both so alpha. Huh?
Yeah, like you can tell the look at the 2 of us were fun. And we were working on a project, I won't say the name of it, but it was a gardening project. And I used to write all the treatments. So I would write everything, being a frustrated writer. And then he came in and we'd share everything as a team. So I'd go, here's the treatment, we're going to send it out to the talent, see what the talent is. And then he rewrote it and gave it back to me. Like, I've made some changes. And I went, oh, yeah, let me have a look. And so
were you also a researcher at this point?
He was like an AP.
Okay.
So he was ahead of me, but I didn't see it that way.
Right.
Because it was my company. So he had come in. I was in there before him.
Right.
So then he rewrote it and sent it back. So then I rewrote it and sent it back to him, and then he rewrote it and sent it back to me, and then I rewrote it. And I know it couldn't have gone on for weeks and weeks, but it felt like it went on for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks until the end of it. I think we both went, "Oh, fuck this," and then we became like a development team. And after that, it was great.
That was true love.
Do you remember that though?
No.
You don't remember that? Do you want to tell you what it's called? You can beep it.
No, I remember the idea.
Yeah, it went back and forward.
I don't
back
remember.
And forward. Yeah, no.
Did the idea ever go down?
I think we ran it into the ground. It was rubbish.
It was a very good
idea. But I think
it was a very predictable idea. Yeah. When you start off in development, you tend to stay in a very predictable area for a while, at least a little while, until you start to realise how you get out of that.
Very quickly thereafter, we became like a little development.
The best.
The greatest.
Yeah. Like me.
Your words. Yeah, well, yeah, okay. Let's say yes for the purpose of it.
All right.
So that's how we got together.
Matt, word on the street is you used to work for
Word on the Imagine that was whatever got mentioned on the street.
Word on your Wikipedia feed is that you used to work on You've Been Framed. It used to be one of my favourite shows when I was 7.
This is some sort of trolling exercise.
Yeah. But really, I loved You've Been Framed. I used to watch it every Saturday
when you were 7.
What was that like?
It was very good fun. It was funny. It was your job on that show to cut your own little montage of clips around a theme. So it's your first sort of, you at a very kind of junior level, you're thrown into packaging up content to a music track and to a theme, and knowing where you would start it, where you'd end it, where your little spikes would be, tonally, what was on and off. So you build them, and then you would, I'm trying to think of something. I remember doing a compilation of dogs in cars to Hey Ya.
That was my favourite one.
Okay, nice. For instance. And then you would take that into the weekly meeting to the series producer, and you play it in the group, and she would either go yay or she'd destroy you for whatever you did.
Right. Well,
you are the best. Is that what you're saying? It's not important now.
I remember my friend Neil getting particular dressing down for including a clip of a poor homeless man on fire in one of his compilations.
Saturday night.
And I think it might have been like Sex on Fire or something with the tune, or My Sex on Fire or something like that, or Disco Inferno maybe.
You're going to get cancelled.
No, I didn't do it. I didn't do it.
We'll just reiterate that again.
Yeah, that's
that was one of those American shows. But it was a good job for that reason, in terms you were it was like working on your own and pitching in your ideas. So it was a good system for that. It was a good show to work on. I think I was the very first year that became Harry Hill voiceover rather than studio show, which when it became a better show.
I didn't know it was a studio show.
Yeah, it was a studio show. So I used to have a host in a studio introducing the clips and guests.
Yeah, and it was the woman from Corrie, wasn't it?
Lisa Riley was the host, and Jonathan Wilkes, who was just Robin Williams' mate. Was there anybody else? And Jeremy Beadle originally was the very famous host.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, well, we're going back a bit now, but so I was there when the decision was made to take it into voiceover, to put Harry Hill onto it. It worked really well. So it was also fun you got to go into the edit and be with the editor while you put your chosen compilations together and see him very brilliantly cut up the track in a way that you couldn't, to make it work, and then see what happened when your compilation was then added to Harry Hill's voiceover. It was great. It was a good show for that reason, and just a good place to work as well. I have such good memories of working for Granada in Manchester at that time, because that was You've Been Framed, Stars and Rise, things like Soap Star Superstar and Celebrity Under Pressure, and all these big sort of fun game showy things. It was a great place to be.
That's funny. I never thought when I was watching, I literally watched it every Saturday. I didn't think that I would now work with someone who worked on it. Work for someone who worked on it.
So lucky.
Well, so tell me, how did Stellify start? But firstly, why the name Stellify and who chose it?
I chose it.
Yeah.
Very stupidly, if you're going to start your own business, you need to have a name, obviously, but then you need to be able to register the company's house, and you need a domain. You need to have the website. So everything's taken. You can't find anything anymore. It's wet. I wanted to put media at the end of it, because that seemed like, rather than productions or something, I thought we'd do media. People were saying media. Nowadays you'd say content or something. I don't know. But anyway, I was trying to find a word. Shut up. I was trying to find a word and then stick media on the end and go .com or .co.uk, that I could then register a company's house. And I had an iPad. My son was like barely 1 year of age, so I was laying in bed. I tell a story of him. I had him on my chest, asleep, drooling on me, and I had my iPad, and I found a website called like Interesting Words or something, and it was every letter of the alphabet was a hyperlink. So you would hit A, and it would give you like page upon page of words beginning with A that are interesting. And so I was like, whatever the A was, I claimed it. I've got Aardvark's in there, like Aardvark's good, Aardvark Media. So I would Google Aardvark Media. I had the tabs open, company's house, Aardvark Media. I can get it, domain name, can't get it.
Okay.
And so I went through, and if you imagine how many pages and names I went through, because I wasn't sleeping because I had the kid, I got all the way to S, and S, I see Stellify, to transform into a star, and I thought, that makes sense. Stellify Media, you could get it as a domain name, you could get it as a company's house. So I bought it, lying in bed at like 3 in the morning, registered a company's house. I think it did.
Did you run this past Matt?
No, I did not. I haven't talked to him. No, I didn't. I just did it. Because him and I, we hadn't seen each other. Yeah, we hadn't seen each other in ages. We were making The Secret Fortune.
Okay.
And I was making all the David Mead shows. So we hadn't seen each other in the office in ages. And I had sort of thought, and we thought this independently of each other. It was like, I think I'd like to go out on my own. But I just assumed I'd go out and be a writer, and I would form a company, and I would get paid through the company to be a scriptwriter because I was writing for kids TV then on the side. And I hadn't had a chance to talk to him, so I just registered the company.
So Stellify was a thing before.
It wasn't really anything. It was just something I had. I sort of parked it, thinking that'll be useful, and I'll be a writer in case if I ever leave TV. And then
I didn't even remember that.
And then
I don't remember a lot.
All of this shit. Yeah, it's all true. I've never forgotten it. I can't remember birthdays.
I've had a full life, Lisa. So it was misty.
I happened to be in the Belfast office one day of the company. I wasn't in a very office, but I was out making stuff. And he grabbed me and said, we should grab a coffee, I need to talk to him. I was like, oh, okay. And we went to Starbucks. This is about 4:30 on Wednesday or Thursday, midweek. And he was like, listen, I think we should have a stab at it ourselves. We should go out on our own. And I went, well, funny you said that. I've been thinking that myself. And he went, well, then why don't we do it? And I was like, okay, sweet. I already have the company name. And I was like, it's called Stellify. And he went like that, his face. And I was like, oh, brilliant. The energy was there from the off. And so that's
You've stuck with that same energy the whole way.
And the logo, got the logo designed, and he went, it's all right. Yeah. So that's how our Stellify name came around, and that's how we ended up going out. So we were both thinking it independently, and then...
I do remember us both going very quickly. Yeah. Like, you remember when you're at school and you come up with a band, and all that band does is come up with a name for about 4 months, and never actually plays the music. We're like, let's get the name and the logo done.
Yes.
Quick. Not to say we compromised, but that was never... We could have spent ages on that.
We did the logo really quickly. We got Johnny Kane to do the logo. We did a load of designs, but very quickly it sort of lent itself to a constellation.
It's very good.
And we're like, we'll have that. And it has to work in black and white. You have to be able to tell what it is. It's shrunk down dead small. We had all the rules for, people tell you.
We're going to do we're 10 next year. We're going to do a rebrand.
Oh, we don't need to. It still looks great.
Yeah, but like a little sparkle up.
A sparkle up, yeah.
Oh.
A glow up, they call it.
Glow up. Yeah, that would be right.
Man, not a bad thought.
So what happened from then? You started the company in 2014?
Yeah, so we decided we were going to go out on our own. We told our boss, obviously. And then we both thought that the world doesn't... Matt had a very young child. My son's just a little bit older than Matt's eldest. So we picked a brilliant time to leave our full-time jobs in a really sort of difficult industry. It's not very regular to go out on our own, to start our own business. But we both decided the world did not need another two-man band pitching 30-minute documentaries or one-offs and stuff. We wanted to be bigger than the sum of our parts. We wanted to broaden our shoulders. So we knew we wanted to go off and find someone to invest in the company. And the company that we'd worked for previously had loads of big hits, really creative hits, but they were all created by me and Matt. Mm-hmm. It was really 3 people worked there, the boss and me and Matt. We were the development team.
It was just you three?
Just the three. Well, Verity Quinn was the office manager, who then became a production manager. She was amazing. So we've known Verity a million years, but fundamentally it was just me and Matt for a long time. Then Paddy McKenna joined.
Yes.
And then Sean Doyle was there for a stint. As he enjoys saying that word, stint in places. But fundamentally, a lot of the shows got away. It was me and Matt that started them. We created them and we made them.
Yeah.
So we had them on our CV. So we knew that if we told people, we created that show, we created this show, we created that show, that we'd have interest.
We knew we had the credentials to get interest from a backer, but we also knew that the industry had no idea that we'd be behind them.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
they were kind of connected to our the company we were working for rather than us. I think we would probably encourage people to put their heads further with the parapet than we did, or something. But
I think we make a point of telling everybody who invented the shows. Not that our old boss didn't do that, but we make a point of doing it continually. Like if you Beauty Queen and Single, we always credit back to Maeve. Mm-hmm. So we make a point of making sure everybody knows the creativity.
Yeah, I think Phil did the same. It's just that it just gets associated. Now our shows are associated with Stellify rather than two of us. So you just got to, or if it is anybody, it's two of us rather than people in the development team. So
it's natural.
We knew we could go look at our CV. Not many people have done that. That's an American show. That's a BBC One show. That's a whatever show. So we were confident we would have interest from people to back us, and we knew that we would need that for the industry to go, oh, what? Who are these two? I've not heard of them before. What do they do? Oh, great. And if somebody big was interested in us, that validated us for the...
You must have liked Belfast that much that you
stayed.
Well, I do like it, but also you're just following in your career. You're just following each next opportunity that interests you and excites you. You're not thinking much. I don't think you should ever think much further than that.
Yeah.
You just got to follow where the exciting thing is happening.
Has there been a most challenging moment or most challenging show that you've worked on in Stellify? There's Stellify.
Of course there has.
Black cancer.
Well, I'll maybe let all the hair that's fallen out of my head by making the answer. It's around here in one of the bins, I think, maybe. It's our first show. It's called Can't Touch This. It's funny. Everybody we talked to who worked at it absolutely loves it. Me and Kieran, I don't believe you should throw around sort of mental health terms willy-nilly, but it was traumatic, definitely. It was really hard. We were a company of 4 people or something at the time, 4 or 5 people, and we were making the biggest show that anybody had made in the UK for a very many number of years, and just the size of the operation and the money and the expectation all got on top of us. It was very, very hard. We weren't ready for it.
There was 5 of us. So Vicky was working 4 hours a week. That's all she did for the company. 4 hours a week as our bookkeeper.
How did you meet? Did she just
Vicky
apply?
worked, we knew an accountant who we'd used, Matt and I'd used separately. And that accountant had been doing stuff for me and Matt, but we thought he was doing our work, but he was giving it to Vicky. So Vicky's always been with Stellify, we just didn't realise. And then he closed, and as he was closing his business, he said, look, there's someone here who's been doing your books and looking after you this entire time. You've never met her. Her name's Vicky.
Oh.
So we met Vicky and went, oh yeah, do you want a job? So she came, but we were so
I don't
small.
remember that.
Yeah, no, never forgot. She was doing
We've
4
just
hours a
hired you
week.
for the day. Don't you?
He's a standard family. She was doing 4 hours a week. We had Joe Campbell, who was our only full-time employee. And it was Joe had done loads of work, doing loads of different things, but it was his first full-time proper TV job. And Tom Poppy, who was a name higher. And that's everybody that
Tom
worked
was
at
there.
Stellify.
Oh, at the very
Right from start.
Oh, okay.
That was everybody. And we landed this BBC One Saturday Night Commission on a sizzle tape made by Joe and Tom, which was amazing. But we didn't have a printer. We didn't have proper seats. We bought the wrong seats that weren't like you could get sued for making people sit in them. We meant to have those the special ones like the green one Kate's on.
Yeah.
We bought like house furniture by accident. It was really expensive. So we were badly placed to make a show that became a 40,000 square foot theme park with a lighting rig that cost hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds. Matt went bald. I went grey. The show never came back. But it was still a good experience.
You're still here.
Still, but that was our hardest. That was every day something was on fire.
I do think every new company will have their version of that first show
whatever it
that
is.
taught them everything
Mm-hmm.
forevermore. But I do think ours was a quite extreme example of it. I think
Make a TV show, okay. Build a theme park, grand. Don't do them both when you've just started and you don't even know where the pens are in your office. The landline doesn't work. You know, give yourself to get your feet under the desk before you land the BBC One Saturday Night 10-part series.
God.
It's a 40,000 square foot theme park.
So why do you feel that you two together work so well? Like, do your skill sets kind of
those are
complement
your
each
words,
Good
not
question.
ours.
It's a good question.
I will say that that is definitely true because it's now been so long we haven't killed each other, so we must work well together. And the reason is that we are interchangeable. We both think exactly the same way while still being completely different at the same time, which is a weird thing to say, but
No, it's true.
we will always have the same response and do the same thing in each situation, but we're actually very different people. So we've come to the same methodology,
Right.
but weirdly have sort of slightly different skills.
We've been working together 18 years.
Oh.
Isn't that
Holy
crazy?
fuck.
A question,
fuck.
a question from Kate herself is, who would win in the fight?
Well, come on. Kate, you know the answer to that. Why would you embarrass him? Why would you embarrass him like that? Who won the fight between me and Paddy McKenna? Why would you embarrass me like that? Do you know what I mean? What the fuck?
That's not a fair
I'd
question.
get his legs. I'm short.
Kate, we've arm wrestled. You should
Yeah.
know the
And
answer
she
to
won.
it.
Did you win in the arm wrestle?
She didn't
Yes.
Almost beat you.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. Well, I beat Stuart, and Stuart was the best arm wrestler in the business, and I destroyed him.
Stuart's the best.
He's the one that beats everyone.
Really?
Destroyed him.
There's a lot of talk about, I know in development there's a manifestation wall.
Yeah.
Do you believe that motivation, positive mindset? No, you don't believe in any
No,
of
that's
that?
not true. That's not true. I don't mean that.
You don't think you've manifested anything?
I think manifest is another. So here's what I think, right? I don't believe in manifest. I don't even believe in luck. I don't believe in any of that stuff because none of it's quantifiable. I think if you work hard enough, long enough, things will come good in the end. And
But
you
you
can
don't
be
think
fortunate
because you're so positive and you've worked.
No, because
you've self-belief.
I know lots of negative people who are more successful. So the thing doesn't tally. But you can if you have a goal in mind. I believe in goals. I believe in writing down your goals and going, this is what I want to achieve.
Yeah.
And I believe in being thinking logically about how you get to your goals. There's no point going, do you know what I want to do? I want to crack America. That's my goal, because that's so arbitrary. So what you have to do is, and what we tend to do is go, okay, what are the steps? Because if that's your goal, you'll never get it quick enough. You'll be disappointed continually. So you pick the thing you want, you think of the way you're going to get there, you be very regimented and organized, and you make your way towards it. And people call that manifesting, which is fine if you want to call it that. But it's like saying, I'm just really lucky. I don't believe in luck. I don't think we've ever been lucky. I think we've been fortunate in that you can be in the right place at the right time, but that's not luck. That's just constantly being in that place. You know, things come around, you work hard, you follow trends, you look for things that are coming up, and you try to put yourself in situations that might end positively for you. That's what I think.
The point of the manifestation wall.
I was going to say,
but I like the wall. I like the wall. No, I'm a big believer in the wall.
And when Kieran and I have done similar things in the past and they've come to fruition, is not about willing something along. It's about cutting out the distractions.
Yes.
So it's very, very important to identify what you're aiming for, and if you've got that to a few specific things and they're in front of you the whole time, that means that when somebody's asking you a question about whether you should or whether you shouldn't, all you need to do is look at that and go, it's not. That is a distraction from the wall.
Yeah, I don't mind the language people use for it. Like you can say manifest and you can say all this stuff because you're essentially doing. I would, as much as I'm an optimist, I'm a pragmatic optimist. So I don't think I'm going to win the lottery if I don't buy a ticket.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I make a list. I look at what I want to do and I set a goal and I set little mini goals to get me there. And then I try to achieve these things. The big goal stays the same, but the mini goals can change depending on what way you go. But people would refer, as you change direction, people would sometimes refer to that as like, oh, I got lucky because of X, Y, Z. But it's not. You've got a map you're taking. You're just being sensible and being pragmatic. So I don't mind the language.
So how do your daily routines? Do you have quite structured daily routines every day for joint CEOs?
I don't. You do, don't you? I don't. I mean, if I'm in production, when you're in production, you're sort of. So we split the company down the middle.
Yeah.
One of us will be the point of contact for production. One of us will be the point of contact for development. Currently, Matt's point of contact for development and point of contact for production. So my day is when we've got lots of shows on, I'm just bouncing around between the different productions. So I'm available for all those chats. Pre-production, I'm busiest because we're shaping the show. Then afterwards, I'm just listening to what people need me to do and helping out where I'm needed to be helped out, watching things and jumping in. So
and for your personal life, how do you both keep seeing, you know? Like, do you have
personally
way to manage that stress and still
just explain to you? I should manifest it personally.
That is, I think, if you were to ask us in the first couple of the years of the company, we'd find that harder to answer. But now we've been lucky enough to have built a company that has really great people around us. That means we don't feel those stresses in the same way that we used to, because we're all sharing them and we know how to approach each problem that comes along. So I don't feel my job seeps into my personal life particularly.
No, and for me, my job is also my hobby.
Yeah.
So I like sitting around the house thinking about the job, thinking about the shows. Not because I feel like I'm under pressure to do it, but because I like feeling like I've had a creative solution to a problem, and that will happen. That can happen in the building, or it can happen at the weekend or at night. It just presents itself. But I spend all my time thinking about it because I spent all my time thinking about TV and movies and stuff before I got this job. So it hasn't changed. So it doesn't. I can still go to a bar and get blocked.
Were you hoping we had some sort of
Yeah, you
Mark
want some advice?
Wahlberg 4 a.m. routine or something.
Yeah, I thought maybe.
I get up
you
at 4 o'clock and then I make a list and then I strike the list out and then I make another list and I don't do any of that stuff.
Well, what you said about like thinking about the job and stuff, I feel the same way. I love working here, and I think when you have a job that makes you happy, it doesn't feel as much like a job, and everyone here is like a little family, really. So I do really enjoy it. I'm not just saying it because I have you both sitting here, but I do really.
Kate's
enjoy
making a
it.
face. Kate's behind the camera going like this.
I really enjoy it. I have a question for you about media therapy just before we wrap up. It has really changed, kind of the Northern Ireland TV.
Right. Think so?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Like,
Quite a few arguments.
yeah, but
It's quite a moany old place. Depressingly so, but yeah, no, it's good.
how did you come up with that?
We were at it was the very, very first ever Belfast
I
Media
do
Festival.
remember this. For once,
Yeah.
I do remember
Well
this.
done. Well done. It was the very, very first Belfast Media Festival. I didn't know it was the very first. I just assumed they hadn't gone yet. Did you know it was the first
There was
one?
like a few stalls in the BBC.
Yeah,
wasn't
it was
there?
really, it was in the
Oh,
bar.
really?
It was
Yeah,
weird.
yeah, it was weird.
So it was the very first BMF, and we all went to it. And then afterwards, it all sort of finished off, and we were like, "Well, we'll all get a pint." So me and Matt and a woman called Gemma Cunningham from the BBC, who's staff in there, series producer, we all went for a beer, and
Maybe Rachel as well.
Rachel used to come, but everybody like it was. So we walked around.
Rachel Kearns?
No,
No,
Jesus,
not that
no.
time.
Rachel Hooper.
Who doesn't
Oh,
work
there.
in
Doesn't
TV
work
anymore.
anymore. We walked around to RGB, the hotel. Days Inn, what's it called?
Oh, Holiday?
We walked around to a hotel.
There's a hotel beside the BBC, really close. We scalped in there, we ordered some beers, and we were sitting having a pint. And then between the three of us, me, Matt, and Gemma, we were like, why don't we see if anybody else is around who wants to come for a beer? And we said, okay, whoever brings the most, if we can bring the most freelancers, you buy us a pint. If you can bring those BBC people, we'll buy you a pint. And so she sent a text, and we sent a text, and a handful of people turned up, and we sat on drinking, and it was great crack.
Do you know what it was? It was the realisation as we were sitting together that we didn't really have any opportunity to sit chatting together. But yeah, basically you can feel quite marooned in your own little world, in your own little company. And there are things that we all share as companies that it's useful to get off your chest or to share information and to
Tell people who you hate.
well, yeah,
So
because
good.
it can make you feel a hell of a lot better. That's why it's called media therapy.
Yeah.
But
And so we thought, well, we need to, if this isn't happening and this has been so useful, we need to create a regular occurrence
and
where
it was a text message when it started. We used to text message people. We would say, we'll do it on Thursday night next month. And we would text people going, listen, we're doing it. Yeah, you text people going, we're going to go down, do you fancy it? We're going to have a pint, do you fancy a pint? And then we would turn up and we'd see who arrived. And we always got, there was like 10 or 12 people, and there was like 15 people. And then there was one night, we did this every couple of months, we would have had a night, anybody would go for a beer. Gemma would have texted a load of BBC people, we texted a load of freelancers. We all turned up, had a few pints, talked shit, moaned about everything.
I didn't
And
realize
then
that was that.
on one particular night, we had to take the mezzanine. There was so many of us, about 40 people, and we got drunk. I remember everybody was heading off, and I was sitting drunk, watching it as everybody was leaving. And I thought, fuck, there's got to be an easier way than texting 40 people.
Yeah.
So when I went home that night drunk, I formed media therapy group on Facebook and made me, Matt, and Gemma the admins. And then I started sending out invites to people who were my text messages. Friend them on Facebook when Facebook wasn't evil, or it probably always was evil. But like, here's the group.
Yeah,
This is us.
yeah.
Join the group. And then I remember when it hit 100. We're like, oh, I've got 100 people on media therapy, and now there's 10,000 odd people on media therapy.
Yeah.
And then we started doing, we set up Stellify, because that was before we were Stellify. When we set up Stellify, we made media therapy more sort of official. We got logos done, and then we would have had like a night where we rented the upstairs, which we fucking paid for, of the Spaniard.
This is a good opportunity to suggest that someone could be more active, couldn't they, in the running of it? Alicia, Kate, if
She's
you
gone down to
fancied
London.
to. Oh,
Kate, though.
okay.
So it became pretty busy. Yeah, but you want a career.
We could do that remotely though.
We have to do it remotely.
Yeah, you don't have to be working at Stellify to do it.
So what we ended up doing, it got so busy, right?
You just need to start having meetups again.
Yes, I
It's
mean,
been a
Yeah.
keep saying, I
while
keep
because of
saying,
COVID.
to try and stop people crying on that stupid website, I go, I'm going to organise another media therapy meetup, and we'll have a great night. We'll be a great cracker. We'll stop crying. Jesus Christ. And then I just never get around to doing it because it's me that's doing it. I never get around to it. Previously, Rachel Kearns, I mean,
Yes.
her admin, Rachel
Yeah.
was doing it for a while and to great success. The last one to do it most recently was Maeve,
Yeah.
when Maeve was still here before she went off to be a commissioner, and then
She got Vicky McMullan.
Maeve got she got all of Line of Duty to come to a party. This was just as COVID was starting. And we were all standing around.
Oh, really?
Should we all be here? Tom's coughing. Yeah. This is no one knew about COVID except this is coming, is it? Everybody on TV was in this bar. Everybody from Line of Duty, Jed Mercurio was there, Vicky McClure. We're all starting, this is the best crack ever. And Tom's going, this is great. And then a week later, the whole country was laughing. So Maeve was running it. It was really brilliant. She was getting lots of parties. It's now, because Maeve's gone, she's now 2 kids. They're not running media therapy anymore. Yeah. It's back on us, back on me, trying to sort something. Right. We need to sort something, but they're really good nights out.
Mm-hmm. Never been
really good nights. Well, we've got pull-ups, the logos and stuff, and then we had someone come around and take pictures, and so on the media therapy group we put up pictures. And then when I was doing the RTS and when I was on the Belfast Media Festival, the after party would be a media therapy after party, and we put up media therapy banners and get everybody in, and so it became a big thing. I think that's why it jumped up so many people. Yeah, because we tied it into the Belfast Media Festival and the RTS Awards. Mm-hmm. The after party was media therapy. But it's been, people got jobs. I keep asking people to say what good has come off this thing, so it's not just a constant whinge fest,
Before you got on the training scheme, had you done any kind of work at all? Yeah. I mean, you got it through media therapy?
No.
But that would have been a great ending, wouldn't it?
No, but I have one final question for you. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. Most famous person in your phone contacts?
Ooh.
Don't worry, we're not going to make you FaceTime.
Well, that's just a hard thing to sort of rank those people. So, Zoe,
I love Zoe.
Ashley,
everybody we've worked with, essentially, isn't it?
George.
Yeah. Gino.
I haven't got Gino on mine. I haven't got Gino on my phone, I don't think.
You probably do, yeah. Everybody we've worked with is in there. You didn't put them in under the real names, because your phone.
Yeah.
But everybody on the poster. Well, that Stuart does.
Is there anybody famous in your phone that we haven't worked with?
The other people that I have on my phone are maybe people who we haven't worked directly with, but were celebrities on celebrity episodes of Millionaire. Okay, I've got some numbers there because we sort of chatted work and bits and bobs. I'm trying to think if I know anybody. I'm sure I do. I just can't remember.
I have one very famous person on my phone.
Who?
I'm not going to say who it is, but it's someone.
We told you all ours.
Hang on a minute.
I know, I can't say it because it was when I was chaperoning, and it was an actor, very famous actor here who I was looking after as a kid, but very famous.
Do you text this actor often?
Absolutely not. It was his profile picture. It came up, and I thought I was like someone was pranking me, but it actually was him when he asked me to come. But yeah, that's just a personal story.
It's very short.
Anecdote.
I couldn't give any names.
It's just a personal story with no details, but okay.
Yeah, I'll tell you after. But yes, thank you so much for coming on. I hope we're recording on all angles here.
It's still recording.
Brilliant.
So finish that.
Thank you so much, Jenny.
You're very, very welcome
for coming on, and great backdrop here in Belfast with all the sirens.
And you know, in all the years we've done these things, because we sort of talk on lots, we've never done it together.
Him
and I have never done one of these together. He's either done them on his own or I've done them on my own. We've never both sat down and done.
That's true.
Yeah. For a podcast, you've been on
for a podcast or a panel. We've never done a panel together, except the Edinburgh stuff where we do the how to start a company stuff.
Yeah.
Have you done podcasts before, or is this the first?
I've done stuff for people, but I've never done it with him.
Not good, but he wouldn't know.
Yeah, we tried a Millionaire once, one on Spotify. I did that once.
Maybe that could be a Stellify podcast.
What's episode 13?
Who follows us?
Maeve McLaughlin is going to be episode 13.
Oh, right.
I hope.
Well, there you go. I was going to go
get that. The hierarchy, is it? You go MD, then you go commissioner.
Straight to me.
I guess that's true.
Did you put the press on her at the awards for the podcast?
Michelle, I told Michelle, and then Michelle dragged me over and said, Kieran, I wanted Felicia to ask you something. And she said only if you look after her kids for them.
Oh my God. She made me, I met her the other day and she had baby Nina with her. And she'd run out of milk, she had to go back home. She just handed me the child with a little bit of a bottle. I was sitting downstairs in Europa.
Do you remember what to do?
No, it was fucking terrifying. And then the way she had it, she went, here, hang on, just go grab some. And she put her in my arms. But the way I held her, my arm was all trapped. And I was like, that's me trapped like this forever. I can't get my arm out. Because I was afraid that it would drop.
She never came back.
She was back in like 30 seconds, but I was like, this is the longest 30 seconds of my life.
Well, hopefully she comes on now after that, after I've given her a shout out.
I'm going to call in sick when she turns, so I can't pick up. I can push a prom, but I don't want to hold it.
thank you so much for both taking the time out of your schedule, and thank you to anyone who's got this far in
Very
the
well.
podcast. Thank you. Bye.
Giving in the figures. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, guys.
You're very welcome.
I appreciate it.
All right, that was pleasant. I enjoyed that.
Just a final note. I don't know if this is not going to be on the video, but thank you so much to my lovely partner in crime, Kate, for recording this for me and listening to me when I complain about having to edit this after. Thank you. Bye.